Jesse, are you ready for rapid fire?
Let's do it.
So FanDuel has posted college football season over-under win totals for next season. Notre Dame's is 10.5. And we always complain that their number is too low. So what do you think about 10.5 for 2025?
Yeah. Bigger expectations are coming for Notre Dame. And, whether that's something you want or not, I think it's something, like you said, we have been asking for as fans. I always feel like Notre Dame is undervalued by like one win every season. That's no longer the case. And to be in a group that also is, consists of Ohio State, Oregon, Penn State. I mean, basically what you're saying, Ohio State, Oregon, Penn State, Notre Dame, those are the national championship favorites, right? Like if you've got the most wins at 10.5, and knowing kind of where Notre Dame's path lies in the college football playoff, I don't think it's unreasonable to say that 10.5 is the number. I think that one loss is ultimately, with their schedule, I think it's not inevitable, but I would be understanding. And I definitely think one loss gets you in the playoffs. I said before, 2 losses when you kind of get on the fringe. But again, you raise the expectation bar as Notre Dame now by going on to the national championship, having this deep playoff run, knowing what's coming back defensively and offensively. So I like where that number is at. And I think, again, it shows that they are one of the few favorites for next year to be the national champion.
Yeah, I mean, you got to the national championship game, and you've got a lot coming back. You've got your head coach in place. You've got your offensive coordinator in place, most of the staff in place. Obviously, we know what they replace in terms of the staff with the defensive coordinator, but I think it's a very well-deserved number. I also think that, like from a Vegas standpoint, they're going to get
that's sharp.
They're going to get movement on both sides of this sucker, like I think at 10.5, like last year, I don't know how much action they got on the under. I'm sure they got some, but I feel like 10.5, you're going to get all the Notre Dame fans pounding the over because they're so confident in what they just saw this year. And all the skeptics are going to pound the under. So I don't even think this line is going to move before the season starts. I think it'll sit here right up until the opener. So I think it's the perfect number. And by the way, Ohio State, Oregon, and Penn State also have over-unders of 10.5. And again, kind of like what I was alluding to earlier, Jess, is the fact that they're setting these numbers now and they don't even know what the rosters are going to look like. We haven't even gotten through spring football, and they're setting season over-unders right now. You would think that they would wait until at least May when you have a better idea of who's going to be playing for who before they set these things. But
I think that's why they like to do it, is because they put these numbers out and they flash them in front of people's eyes, and they're almost like, do it, it's almost like a trap door, like we're going to give you these numbers and lines, but it's almost, again, a trap door because, like you said, we don't know what's coming, right? So things could happen. Those lines could shift, and now the books capitalize because you took a high number when maybe that win-loss number drops in a month or two.
Yes. Craig, it's funny you ask what Georgia is because I have some more here. Georgia and Texas are both 9.5. Alabama, Michigan, Indiana, and LSU all 8.5. So we were talking about Brian Kelly and whether or not he's on the hot seat, and he and the Tigers have an over/under of 8.5 right now. I'm going to look up real quick what their schedule is while you ruminate on that a little bit, Jess. That's your cue.
Georgia and Texas. Sorry, the cat was going crazy on his scratch tower. I was like, what is going on over there? But I think Georgia and Texas naturally makes sense at 9.5, and I think they're going to be down below Notre Dame and the rest of the group because of, they're in the same conference. They're going to play each other. They're probably going to be in a conference championship. So those make sense. Alabama and Michigan and Indiana, 8.5. I don't know where to kind of gauge them because of, Michigan coming off the season they had last year, getting a new quarterback. There's just a lot of still new things going on in Michigan after that national championship team. And the same thing with IU. It's like, yes, Ignetti was good, but a lot of those guys came from JMU. So are they going to be able to replenish, reload, and have the same type of success this season? And honestly, LSU at 8.5, I don't think 8 or 9 wins for Brian Kelly is not a good season this season.
No, it is not good at all. And here's their schedule, by the way. They open at Clemson, unless that's a neutral site, but their schedule says at Clemson. They also have Florida, Ole Miss, South Carolina, at Vanderbilt, Texas A&M, at Alabama, Arkansas, at Oklahoma.
That's a tough schedule.
There's
a lot of other coaches on that list too.
We're going to go back to hot seat talk. I think BK is going to be firmly on the hot seat by the middle of the 2025 season. Before October is over, he is going to be on the hot seat.
Oof.
That's
Do you think there's going to be clamoring about should he just be fired at the end?
Well, look, he's been there for 3 years, and they have lost every opener that he's been there. Now, Florida State in back-to-back years before the fall-off year this year, and then they lose to USC this past season. Now they've got Clemson to open up the season. Yeah, which is better than USC was last year.
But that's all par for the course. That's what Brian Kelly wanted. He wanted to be down in SEC country and quote unquote be challenged more. So, I don't, at the end of the day, I have no sadness for the guy. This is what he chose. And so if it blows up in his face, then so be it. That's on him.
North Carolina and the Fighting Belichicks have an over-under of 7.5, which feels
that's pretty modest.
I thought it felt a little high.
Sorry, that's what I meant. It felt high.
Okay. USC is also 7.5. Colorado has an over-under of 6.5.
Interesting. Oh, I guess he is losing, Travis Hunter and his quarterback.
Yeah. And a defensive back as well. Basically both his sons. Let's see who North Carolina has this year. TCU. It's going to be on national TV. Clemson. Their schedule is very manageable. TCU, Charlotte, Richmond, UCF, Clemson, Cal, Virginia, Syracuse, Stanford, Wake, Duke, NC State. I can see why it's 7.5. I think that's very, very manageable. So Jeremiyah Love has plus 4,500 odds for the Heisman. Good value or a waste of money?
Well, it's extremely high value in my opinion. You're talking about one of the most explosive athletic running backs in the country. There are going to be some big names on that list that rival him. A couple that come to mind are, Drew Aller, DJ Lagway, Nussmeier, Jeremiah Smith, Jamison Williams, a wide receiver for Alabama. Like, there's other names on that list. I think the only thing that limits Jeremiyah Love, in my opinion, is just how much of a snap share goes around. Like, he's not a running back like Genty, who's literally taking, 20, 30 carries a game.
That's my point when I ask, is it a waste of money? Because, yeah, plus 4,500 is awesome value. But I just feel like, and this is not taking away anything from Jeremiyah Love's skills. We all know what his skills are. I just don't think he's going to get the touches for a running back to be able to win the Heisman because of what you just said. He's not going to end up with over 2,000 yards because, look at what we were just talking about with all the running backs that Notre Dame has. You've still got Jadarian Price out there as well. Like, I think that Jeremiyah Love would also have to be a kickoff returner and probably take back at least 3 kickoffs for touchdowns in addition to whatever else he's going to do as a running back to have a chance at the Heisman. Like, we all know how good he is, but I just don't think that he's going to get I don't think he's going to have enough numbers to be able to win the Heisman Trophy.
I think he'd have to be around 1,500 all-purpose and over 20 combined touchdowns if he wanted a legit shot at the Heisman. I think because his yardage number is going to be down, I think his touchdown number would have to be like insane. You know what I mean? Like, he'd have to, like I said, I think he wants a real shot, he'd have to have 20 touchdowns and above.
Yeah, I mean, he pushed 20 touchdowns this year, but again, like as one, because he's a running back, so that's going to be hard. Like he needs something else to go with it.
Right. And I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a QB award, basically.
Right. And you've got to be like, to be a non-quarterback and win the Heisman, you have to do something, either there has to be no
be
quarterback
a player
who makes sense, or you've got to be Travis Hunter, basically. Fill in the blank. It will be blank if Notre Dame does not make the playoffs this season.
It would be a monumental letdown if Notre Dame doesn't make the college football playoff next season. Marcus Freeman's tenure has continued to show progression and taking a step year after year after year. And coming off a national championship, there just can't be that letdown. Like, this is the time to continuously keep going up, essentially, right? Like, I don't know. I don't expect another national championship, game. I think I think the Final Four is probably my expectation for next season right now, looking at it, very, very early on. But I just don't think that not making the playoff is an option.
Yeah, it would be a monumental letdown if they don't make it to the playoffs, because think about how those first round playoff games played out this year, and like what SMU looked like, and
right.
what Indiana looked like, quite frankly. And even though, again, I think you can kind of look at Indiana's season a little bit differently by the time it was all said and done. The fact that their only two losses were the two teams who played in the national championship game. But my point is that tier of teams that didn't win a conference championship game and have to go on the road in those first round playoff games, like, with everything that Notre Dame has coming back, they should easily, at worst, be one of those four teams, and not just in the conversation to be one of those four teams. At worst, that should be what they are this year, with all that they have coming back from this team that went to the national championship game. So it would be a major, colossal letdown if they're not at least in the playoffs next season. The other thing, though, is like, it's going to be interesting to see as well, like, when we were talking about conditioning and strength and all these different things, sort of what this looks like now for programs that do make it even at least to the semifinals by playing those extra games, like what the rollover is, how it impacts your off season, and what the rollover is even, to the next season, with everything, with the greater toll and strain that they're putting on these bodies compared to the past. But I guess, as I kind of talk through this at the same time, obviously they're younger, and like they're younger than a 15-year NFL veteran, and plenty of those guys, like, look at the Kansas City Chiefs as an example, going deep every year.
Right.
So, fill in the blank. You will remember Riley Leonard for blank.
I will remember Riley Leonard for being a tough SOB that was willing to do anything for his team in order to win. And I think it's more emphasis on the latter part of that statement. The reason why I knew Riley Leonard wasn't the most, proficient and excellent thrower of the ball, but there is something I knew, is that when the game was on the line, and you needed Riley Leonard, I felt like there was no moment too big for him. And the guy was willing to do whatever it took to win. He was flipping over defender. I mean, literally look at the Georgia game, right? To seal the game and win that thing. He's jumping over two SEC defenders to win the game. He's putting his whole body on the line. Like, that's something I'll always remember Riley Leonard for. It's just, I've never met a more competitive guy who is quite literally down to do whatever it takes to win a football game.
And I mean, I would say, like, if you look at his demeanor and his aw shucks and, everything else that comes with the Riley Leonard package off the field, I would say deceptively gutsy and competitive, because, like, that's basically, like, the guy that's off the field, that's essentially the guy that you're going to run into in English class or, math class or whatever, Like, you don't expect that guy, especially the way he's built, because he is so, that's what strikes me, standing next to street clothes Riley Leonard when we got to talk to him. That's what strikes me the most is this is not, he's big from a height standpoint. He is not big from a, like muscles busting at the seams kind of guy. He is built like a college basketball player, much more so than a college football player. So the fact that he was willing to do all of those things, the fact that he does put his body on the line and, basically did everything that he could, to help will his team to victory. That's what I'll remember the most. The ultimate competitor, the ultimate guts with everything he did. And I mean, think about a year ago with the foot injury, and then the recurring injury in the plate in the foot. He couldn't get through spring. That was the biggest question that we had is, can this guy get through a season in full health? And I don't think that he was in full health, like the foot and the ankle didn't come into play, but like you never would have known it by watching him out there. He made it through an entire season, laying his body on the line all the time. So I'll remember him first and foremost for the guts that he had every time he stepped up there on the field.
Brian brings up a good point in the chat here. Over under 4.55 on his 40-yard dash.
I think it's under. What do you think?
I think he's gonna run a sub. I think he's gonna run like a 4.48.
I would not be surprised.
Maybe like a 4.5.
Because like Craig is talking about deceptively fast, and I mean that's a thing as well. He is such a long strider, and just by watching him, like how many times did you watch Riley Leonard when he tried to get when he was heading for the corner, and it's like, man, I don't know, is he going to get there? Then all of a sudden, one more stride, and he's like 2 yards past the guy who's trying, who's bearing down on him, trying to get him. Like he was very deceptively fast. And I think you're right. Like in a straight foot race with those long strides that he's got, I think he'll be sub 5 for sure. And I think that that's going to impress a lot of people when he gets to the combine, because how far those 40 times go. All right, Super Bowl this week, Kansas City, Philadelphia. Jesse, do you buy or sell the Kansas City Chiefs as true villains?
I don't think they're true villains. Like, they're just, people are mad at them because they win, and they think that these refs are going out of their way to like intentionally help them win. Like, it's not like they got an arrogant quarterback or a coach that's just a dick 24/7. Like, it is what it is, like they just win games. Like, to me, a villain, I think more or less the Eagles are more villainous than the Chiefs because of someone like Sirianni, a guy who just constantly is chirping back at the fans and like can't close his mouth to the media. And, there's just certain things that go on the sidelines. Like, I don't know. Like, and again, I'm a bit biased because the Eagles are like, the team, one of the teams I hate the most, but I don't see the Chiefs as being true villains because they just win games. They're not doing things in a villainous way. They're just a good team, and they have one of the best quarterbacks ever.
Right. That's the thing. They're not doing anything on the field that's like, oh, those jerks. The only thing they're doing on
dirty.
The field, yeah, like they're winning games. That's the only thing that ticks people off. So, if you're a Bills fan or a fan of the 49ers or the Eagles, yeah, I can understand why you think they're villains, because they beat you all the time and there's nothing that you can do about it and you just can't take it anymore, but if you're a fan of any other team, what have the Chiefs done to you other than show up every Super Bowl Sunday and give you exciting Super Bowls, for your Super Bowl parties and win those games? They've played some of the most competitive Super Bowls ever. They just gave us an overtime Super Bowl last year. I get it. Okay, they're overexposed. They're doing commercials. Andy Reid's eating his nuggies, and whatever else. Like maybe you're tired of the Taylor Swift stuff, and I can see that, but that's a Swiftie thing as well. I mean, honestly, I'm more tired of Jason Kelsey's wife, not Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift. I'm more tired of Jason Kelsey's wife in the commercials that I see every day on NFL Network, and it's kind of like, there for a while. Any coach who was attached to Sean McVay got a head coaching job. It's like you're great by association. That's kind of what it's like with, Jason Kelce and his wife, because they are adjacent to Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift. They have got all this exposure that comes with it as well. So I don't see the Chiefs as a villain, because you're right. It's not like, they're out there doing nasty, dirty stuff on the field. All they're doing is winning.
Well, they don't talk crap after they win either. They just win and move on.
Yeah. It's overexposure that comes with their success. Yeah. I mean, and Craig, it's a perfect example. Just like Alabama, they win and people hate it. Now, like Saban, Belichick, there's a little bit more, because of the personalities that they had, with the media and stuff like that. You could maybe say, there's a little bit more there. But I mean, look at Andy Reid. I mean, Andy Reid, like he's not given the Heisman, to the media. He's out there. He's more than willing to talk, and he's an affable guy, and the whole thing.
No Deflategate drama going on.
Yeah, exactly. No one just accused him of cheating and any of that kind of stuff.
Well, they accused the refs, so like naturally.
Right.
I think you saw my tweet the other weekend. I love when everyone becomes a couch referee watching these games. It's my favorite thing.
Yes.
All of a sudden, all these people are just credentialed refs to know what's a good call and what's a bad call.
Right. So is Patrick Mahomes overrated, underrated, or properly rated?
I think if you ask Chris Collinsworth,
I just love him. I love him, Jesse.
He's underrated. I still think he's definitely not overrated. He probably falls naturally in the properly rated, but I would still probably lean, if I had to go, where I'm leaning towards the most, I would probably say underrated, because I don't think that we understand the gravity of what this man is doing, right? It's just like, I think like Brady kind of, naturally set him up to a degree, right, where there's like even more expectations. But like the part that's crazy to me is like Mahomes hit the ground running. And ever since he became the starter, they've basically won the division every year and gone to the AFC Championship or Super Bowl every year. And he's got rings, and he's got MVPs, and he's got Super Bowl. Like, honestly, like you could continuously talk about Patrick Mahomes and I would never get tired of it, because the man is phenomenal. And you would be lying if you said you didn't want him on your team, right? Like, he is a franchise-changing player. So to me, I still feel like he's a little bit underrated, because we haven't seen this success this early out of a starting quarterback. And he's already chasing Tom Brady and probably still has 10 to 15 years left in the tank.
Yeah, it's interesting to think of him as underrated. I think of him more as properly rated, but I get what you're talking about. Like Brady won Super Bowls, like his first 3 Super Bowls were 3 out of 4 years. Mahomes is 3 out of 5 years, but he also played in another Super Bowl, even though he lost it. So he
did it like right off the bat.
Right, exactly. He has been in the league for 8 years. He's been a starter for 7 years, and he's already going into his 5th Super Bowl right now. Like, think about that. And think about, we don't know how long this career is going to last, but if it even comes within 5 years of how long Tom Brady ended up playing, like, this guy could just literally, especially if Andy Reid keeps coaching, they could just both together just blow the doors off everything. Like, we thought that Belichick Brady, and as of right now, it still is the greatest head coach quarterback combo ever. But Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes are like, hold my nuggies, because here we go. We're about to do the same thing. Andy Reid won 8 division titles before he ever got Patrick Mahomes, but never won a Super Bowl. And now he's won 3 Super Bowls, been in another, and is about to coach in another one with Patrick Mahomes. So at the very least, I think Patrick Mahomes is properly rated, because as of right now, I mean, he's in the Hall of Fame. There's no doubt about that, for everything that he's done right now, with still a whole lot more ahead of him. So I'll ask you the same question. Jalen Hurts, overrated, underrated, properly rated? I probably don't even have to ask you this question.
Yeah, he's overrated.
I will say
Half of his
this.
touchdowns come off of a 1-yard rush
Yeah.
where he gets
And
pushed in by the whole team.
not to mention he's got the best roster around him, both sides of the ball. Like if you put Patrick Mahomes in Philly and Jalen Hurts in Kansas City,
Oh my gosh.
then the Eagles are the ones with all these Super Bowl wins. And the Chiefs, while probably still winning, they're not winning Super Bowls with Jalen Hurts as the quarterback. I'm sorry.
I mean,
Very overrated.
Jalen Hurts beat the Packers and Rams this season in the playoffs with 130 passing yards. You can't do that unless you have a great defense and a spectacular running game. Like, I really think anyone could be the quarterback of the Eagles, and they would still probably make the playoffs at the end of the year. I don't know.
Yeah,
maybe that's
a
just
good.
me.
I mean, because there's a list. Basically, any good quarterback you could put on that Eagles team, and if they didn't make the playoffs, then you'd be firing Nick Sirianni, right?
It's not like Hurts has all these rushing touchdowns like outside the 20 or 10, 20 feet. Like anyone could get under center and they could push anyone in, you know? And it's not like he's got a crazy downfield ball. It's not like he's this elite thrower or like this crazy guy who comes to the line of scrimmage and he's audibling out of plays and checking into the right thing. Like it's again, it's not easy being an NFL quarterback, but I think Jalen Hurts has the easiest amongst all 32 NFL teams.
I agree. Well, let me ask you this. I'm going to flip the order of the questions that I was going to ask him. And since you have referenced the tush push a couple of times, do you buy or sell banning that play, the quarterback sneak play, the tush push?
No, I don't buy banning it. Just figure out a way to stop it. You know, as long as the play is moving forward, like there's really nothing you can do, right? Because any other team could do it as well. So like you just got to figure out a way to do it or figure out a way to stop it.
That's exactly it. Any other team,
as much as I hate it and complain about it and it pisses me off,
right?
It's still a legal play. Like I'm more mad that it works so much and no one can figure out a way to freaking stop it.
That's how do more teams not run it the way they do? Because literally, and I've heard that, and they actually did a thing on NFL Network that, what is his name? Neil deGrasse Tyson or whatever.
Oh yeah.
Like he's a, physics guy. Like everyone talks about Jalen Hurts and his 600-pound squats and all this stuff. And he's like, look, that has nothing to do with it. Because if you actually look, those guys who are pushing behind him are actually lifting him up off the ground. He's not even driving that much with his legs. It's the line in front of him and the guys pushing him from behind that are getting him into the end zone. How have other teams not figured out how to run the same thing with more precision? You don't change a rule because one team has success with it. I'm sorry, so that's the bottom line to me. You don't ban the tush push because one team is having success. It's the job of the other teams to figure out how to do better against it because everyone else has some kind of quarterback sneak play. Josh Allen's a pretty good quarterback himself, but he wants to run off to the left, and the Chiefs were able to stuff it in the AFC Championship game all the time. Figure out how to stop that and how to run your own sneak better. That's what you need to do, not change the rule. Yeah.
And to kind of wrap up this whole Jalen Hurts discussion, do you think Jalen Hurts would still be a starting quarterback in the league if he were drafted by like the Raiders or a Saints team?
No.
Exactly. And I think
it's the talent that he's got around him. It's the talent that he's got around him. And the willingness of, the coaching staff to play to his strengths.
To buy into who he is.
Yeah. Exactly.
The thing is he's not going to get a mega contract when that rookie deal is over. And maybe he has re-signed another contract. But again, he's not going to get some crazy, set the market number. It's just not going to happen because he's replaceable in that offense and that defense. You don't have to pay someone a lot of money to do what Jalen Hurts does.
Okay, last question for you because I know you got to get going. Super Bowl FanDuel special. Patrick Mahomes and Jalen Hurts to combine for 6+ passing and rushing touchdowns. It's got plus 320 odds. Do you like it?
No, not enough juice for 6 combined touchdowns, in my opinion. That's still a lot of touchdowns. And again, Jalen Hurts might not throw for one. So what is he going to pull half his weight and run for 3? I just don't see that happening either, right? And like, yes, Patrick Mahomes is going to have a game, but even if he gets 2 or 3, like they're probably going to find a way to rush one in. There's probably going to be, maybe some field goals mixed in. So like, it's just way, you're asking for way too much to be at plus 320, in my opinion.
If the Eagles,
for a quarterback who doesn't throw the ball very much.
Yeah, if the Eagles are even going to be competitive, Saquon Barkley probably has to have at least 2 touchdowns.
Exactly. So. And so like that's why this line is made up, because you got to look at how if a team is going to win, what does that involve? Yes, Patrick Mahomes has to have a great game for the Chiefs to have a great shot of winning, but Jalen Hurts doesn't have to play fantastic for, their shots of winning at the end of the day.
All right, well, that's going to do it for today. Appreciate you being here. Good questions in the mailbag, and Jesse's going to get rolling. I will see you again when we reconvene on Friday for the Rapid Fire show, and I think you and Vince will be back tomorrow, correct?
We will be back here Thursday.
All right, sounds good. Hit the like button before you leave. Appreciate you being here. I'm going to look one more time and see who got the other show's over with. Talk to you tomorrow. IB Nation Sports Talk.